So what I do is I work primarily with someone who has any type of digital product. And the first key to understanding why your digital product isn't selling was one of the first lessons I had to learn, and I learned it the hard way. It will never sell itself. And if you're just putting it on your website on the Work With Me tab with an add to cart button and no one's buying, now you know why. It does not sell itself. We are not selling iPhone cases on Amazon. This is not Tupperware. This is something completely
even that
different.
Requires a party.
Well, that's right.
Which is a lunch.
That
is a promotion.
That is Tupperware parties. That's a thing. I used to bartend for those.
Hello. Today I have one of my dearest friends on the podcast. He is one of the smartest, most magical humans I know. His name is James Wedmore. We've been friends for over 13 years. And in this episode, I was impressed. He just nailed the date when we met, which I had no idea that he would know. And he is, I think, the best teacher that we have for online business, specifically people who are course creators and digital business owners. Now, I will say, whether you have an online business or not, this episode is going to be really touching and beautiful. He starts off with the absolutely gorgeous story of falling back in love with the love of his life of 20 years and the engagement story. We both cried. It was awesome. So listen in just for that. If you love love, you're going to love it. And then we really get into why so many people are not selling as much of their beautiful work as they could be. So if you feel like you are the best kept secret, if you have an amazing digital product, whether it's a course, a program, a membership, and you're not selling as many as you want, or if you dream of taking your business online, maybe you're an in-person service provider, like an acupuncturist or, some kind of service provider, and you really want to bring your business online so you can have more time freedom, more location freedom, this episode is going to tell you how to get started. And if you're already on your way, you will get very specific instructions from James. In fact, I had to cut him off because he was giving so much incredible depth and information. But you're going to hear exactly how to dial in the most important part of making sales online, and he's giving you a step-by-step structure and framework. This episode is not only an incredible love story from James, but also it's basically like a world-class marketing workshop. So enjoy the episode with James Wedmore and listen in, because he has an absolutely transformational free event coming up. So you'll want to just listen in specially for the information on that. Enjoy the episode. Welcome to Plenty. I'm your host, Kate Northrup, and together we are going on a journey to help you have an incredible relationship with money, time, and energy, and to have abundance on every possible level. Every week, we're going to dive in with experts and insights to help you unlock a life of plenty. Let's go fill our cups.
Please note that the opinions and perspectives of the guests on the Plenty podcast are not necessarily reflective of the opinions and perspectives of Kate Northrup or anyone who works within the Kate Northrup brand.
Hi, James.
Hi, Kate.
Welcome.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
I'm so happy to be here.
Yeah.
Do you know, you do know the synchronicity of how we ended up here. Do you know the full synchronicity?
I think I do.
So what happened was, my affiliate concierge texted me or messaged me and was like, hey, we should see about getting James on the podcast. And also we should see about you going on his podcast because of affiliate things or whatever.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, I was on his podcast a year and a half ago and he was blah, 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 and like travel. Blah, blah, blah. I was
stories and noise.
I was in my stuff. Jenny texted not 12 hours later being like, hey, blah, 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 blah. We should do with it. Let's get together, whatever. Welcome to Miami. So blah, 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 blah. And I just was like, any chance you guys are going to be in Austin next week? And here we are.
Yeah.
Isn't that great?
There's more synchronicity to that. I had gotten an invite to go to a mastermind networking thing out here a month ago. And I always say no to these things.
I know you do. You say no to everything.
Say no to a lot of things. And it's not for any pretentious reasons.
You just like your life.
I like my life. I like living in my town of less than 10,000 people and enjoying, and travel can be really taxing on me. I get like really fried and sensitive around like airports and all that stuff. And Jenny as well. But I, for some reason, just felt like a yes to this. And then, what I've been telling my listeners, and Jenny had a personal family emergency thing where she had to be out here on this same day. So like, it was like this alignment that couldn't have worked better. And I finished that mastermind thing. Jen's been handling her stuff and I come over, here we are. And it's like, let's go.
To what extent has synchronicity increased in your life over the last couple of years? And I want to know what you started doing in your life that increased
Wow.
this kind
Let's just do
of
an hour on this. So
I know, let's do that. And then we'll do a little digital product business.
So as I've shared with you, okay, so like, I'm going to rewind the clock a little bit because I want to talk about one of my most favorite synchronistic moments, and then it will lead somewhere and it will hopefully eventually answer your question. But I got off a plane once, and this is, I think I want to say it was like 2015. And I was listening to Abraham Hicks. Did you ever listen to Abraham Hicks? Okay.
So my granny, I just want to give a shout out to Edna Northrup. May she rest in peace. My granny got the entire Northrup family on Abraham Hicks when they came on cassette tapes.
Wow.
So we go way
like early
back.
90s. Yeah.
Oh yeah. No, my mom would pick me up at school with those freaking things in her little tape deck.
Yep.
Anyway.
So I've had this experience. It's only happened about 3 times in my life. And it's the most intense experience. And I know you've had this happen at least once, where I was listening to the audio, and in the audio, someone who was like on the hot seat asking a question said the word Sedona. And at the same time they said it, I was in the airport in Phoenix, and I look up and I saw a sign that said Sedona, and I read it the same time I heard it.
Isn't that wild?
And when that happens, like, you don't fuck around. And long story short, I started.
Those are direct instructions.
Yeah, like, can I get any more clear? Can it get any more clear?
Oh my God.
So I started feeling this pull to Sedona. I ended up working with who I call my spiritual mentor. He's basically originates from a Yaqui Indian tribe of shamanism. His whole lineage is what the Carlos Castaneda work is all based off of. And he's not a business owner. You can't hire him. He's not on the internet. He's just not a business owner, just I don't want to say just, but he's a real shaman. He didn't get a certificate online in a weekend or something like that. And something that he shared with me pretty early on is he said, the law of synchronicity is actually the most powerful law in the universe. And he's like, people don't really talk about that much, but it's the most powerful law. And the way he really starts to describe it and the way you get a sense of it is just kind of this like, that feeling of that divine hand that's like, if you allow it, will move things in a way that you could have never planned yourself. Mm-hmm. And of course, we have free will and we have choice, so we can fight against that current. You can choose other paths, but there's so much where you just get better and better at like, I'm just going to go with that and I'm going to notice if I'm fighting that current or not. So I can't answer your question with like a specific number other than like 100-fold. Like, it's just insane. And then when you live in a place like Sedona, which is a really, really powerful, spiritually significant place to live, like those synchronicities just happen all the time. Like, I've said things and then boom, they happen. Like, man, I wish, like, we bought another property that's gonna be a short-term rental. And I was like, I wish I could just get someone short term to just live there, and then they could like help me set it up. And then like the next day in the next door app, the like local, someone's like, is there any short term rental owners that are looking for a tenant to stay for like 2 months? I'm like, wow, that was fast. And that happens all the time. So I've learned to just, I think the more you get out of your logic and the more your reason and the white knuckling need to control and plan every aspect of your life, the more you open yourself up to that at all times. And for him to say that it's actually the most powerful law that governs the universe, the law of synchronicity, has been like really significant.
I love that so much.
I know.
Synchronicity is my favorite.
Yeah.
I feel like trusting synchronicity, opening ourselves up to it, saying yes when it does show up is very do less. And there's a funny synchronicity story about the title of my book, Do Less, which is that I was away on a trip and I had been sort of like noodling on my next body of work and like my whatever next book I was going to write. It took me like a really long time between first and second books to get an idea. And I call up Mike and I was like, hey, I have this. I know what I'm going to call it. I'm going to call it Do Less. And I'm so excited. This is like, it's all landing. And he goes, you won't believe this. And I was like, what? And I get home. He's like, I'm going to tell you when you get home. I get home. He unwraps his new vanity plate for his new car. And he was like, it literally, he had weeks ago ordered a vanity plate for his car that said do less.
What?
And had never mentioned it to me. Isn't that wild?
Yes.
And I was like, okay,
yeah.
Universe, thank you.
Yeah.
Vanity plates are my favorite form of communication from the universe when I'm on the highway.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So anyway, that's not what
good.
we're talking about, but synchronicity, that's so good.
Well, and we can talk about it because it is really important because I think you can look at it in a way as a scorecard for how you're doing life. But don't judge yourself too hard about it. But like,
if you're not getting synchronicity, you suck.
Yeah, but I mean, like, I kind of want to say that in a way, but not in a judgmental way. I just want to say, like, you should be paying attention to that, and looking back, recapitulating on like, wow, like actually, the last month everything is like blown up and gone wrong and and versus going, wow, the last month, like I feel like the less I effort, like. I just had this where I kind of had this idea of like, we're going to do this podcast studio, but I don't really have the time. And then I go, but if it's meant to be, and then Jenny, sweet Jenny, of course, but then she had a family emergency. She like booked all these episodes. And I'm like, well, we have all these people, but I don't have a studio yet. And I don't know how it happened, but all of a sudden, like, it just got done. And I really can't, and people are going to hear this like, what the F is he talking about? I'm like, I cannot describe it to you, but I get a text and a handyman, I'd asked him to do it and he wasn't doing it. And then all of a sudden he's like, it's done. And he did all the drywall. He built the set, he painted everything. And then one of the guests comes in town and this was Mel, Mel Abraham.
I love Mel.
And I was like, hey, my set's in, like, do you want to go check it out? But it was just an empty studio. And then all the boxes of all the equipment had arrived. And we just look at each other. He's like, you want to set it up? And it wasn't what we were planning. It was just, I want to show it to him. We went to dinner. It's like 9:30 at night. And we're like, this looks great. And he's like, wait, put a chair in. Put another, wait, hold on. And we had the mic. And I was like, wait, the camera's right there. And within an hour, like we had a set and I look at him and I was like, do you want to record? And we just recorded our first. And then all of a sudden, all these other guests come in the next 2 days. And we have like 5 or 6 guests recorded. And I'm like, I'm looking for more of that in my life at all times where like, I don't feel like I have to force something. I'm not jamming the square peg in the round hole. Our engagement story is the same way. And I have to share that for a moment.
Please do.
Because I think these things are really, really important. I know people
with a primary female audience, we love an engagement.
Yeah, is that can I ask your audience permission to share my engagement story?
Please do.
Because this is my college sweetheart, Like I've known Jenny now, we're going on 20 years. And it's another episode for another time of, well, why did it take so backhand long? But that's another story. And because I had to learn a lot of lessons. That's why, okay? You're learning some business lessons and I had to learn some lessons in love and relationships. So I'm not perfect.
We might circle back.
And maybe I'm an open book.
A few of those.
But here's the deal. I was in a marriage and the way I describe it was getting out, and the divorce was really painful and really long. It was almost a 3-year long divorce. Is if you've ever stubbed your toe, been slapped in the face, there's the initial pain, and then there's like the echo where you like feel the sting for a while. That's what I'd been feeling. So I'm like, I love this woman and I want to be with her, but I still feel the pain of that. And I don't want to jump into that next step still feeling it. So I'm like, I still need some healing to do here. And then I don't remember when, but it was sometime in bed at night, obviously, in around November. I don't feel that sting anymore. And I think I'm ready.
You felt this inside, or you said that outside?
Inside, just to myself.
Just
she had
checking.
no idea. I'm not going to tell her. This needs to be. This needs to be a complete surprise to her.
I need specific.
Absolute. No. That's great. I need it to be a total surprise for her because she is a resident psychic,
and also she's been really patient.
And she's of course. I got to give her rings just to say, give me an extension on the proposal. I gave her a ring to say this is an extension. I said, here's a what was it? Is it sapphire or blue topaz? Aquamarine. I was way off.
That's
I got
my
her
birthstone.
aquamarine.
Beautiful.
I said, this gives me another year, right? just to wait until I'm ready.
Oh my God.
And I was finally ready. And I said and this is November, and I said 2025 is going to be the year. Now, Q4 of 2024 business was one of the most busiest quarters I've had in a very long time. We had big transition with team members that have been here with a long time. I got a new team member that wasn't working out while another team, so they quit the same time one of my A players goes on mat leave while we go into the largest event that we've ever done with some other people that were bringing in from outside that were not performing at their best, while we also go into a launch of our annual mastermind and a renewal of one of our coaching programs, and I got a puppy. So, and I bought a house. So I did all of this in 45 days. Like, it wasn't busy without also saying extremely productive. Like, I did a lot in 45 days. So I go home for the holidays to be with family. Jenny went home to her family, and we're going to meet up in a couple days, December 27th. So I come in on the 21st, and all I want to do is nothing. Play Zelda with my 8-year-old nephew, my best friend. But of course, my 8-year-old nephew, Ewan, my best friend, had different plans. He goes, when's Jenny getting in? I go, the 27th. And he goes, are you going to marry her? And I go, well, it's funny you ask. Yes, I am. And he goes, are you going to do it when she gets here? I'm like, no, buddy, no. And he's like, you need to do it when she gets here, as soon as she gets here. And I'm like, yes, I agree with you, but that's not going to happen, you see. And the reason I'm telling this story is because of this. I started giving all the reasons, all the logic, all of the physical justified circumstances that would tell me now is not the time. And how many times do we hear that from wanting to start a business or a new idea? I'm not ready yet. Now is not the time. I'm too busy. And I was trying to explain to an 8-year-old child why I couldn't find a ring, get it customized and sized and perfect, and plan a proposal in 3 days. It's not going to happen, kid. And he would not let it up.
That's because 8-year-olds are more connected to their magic.
I know. And I knew enough of that to like circle back to it. So now it's December 23rd, and we're downtown doing the fun last minute Christmas shopping, Laguna Beach, California. And all of a sudden, I find myself right outside Rock Martin Jeweler, who is our family jeweler. He's known my father for 30 years. He did my sister's ring. And I'm with my mom, my sister, and little 8-year-old Ewan, and I look at them and I go, well, it doesn't hurt to look. We walk in, my sister, I go, Jill, I know she sent you pictures of the ring that she wants. Pull them up. I grabbed her phone, gave it to Mike, and I said, you got this? He goes, here it is. It was the ring.
Oh my gosh.
Perfect. They just needed to change it out because it was like a different type of diamond. He goes, yeah, I can switch it out. And he goes, I can have it ready for you on the morning of December 27th. And I go, you mean the day that Jenny gets in? And all of a sudden I start to freak out because 10 minutes ago, this was not happening anytime soon.
Yeah.
And now the ring is in my hand as well as the bill. And all of this has happened.
Which was a total joy to pay.
Yes, it was.
Yeah.
Thank you, Kate. No, it is. It is. And it wasn't about the ring. It was like, is this the right time, the right way, right now? Which is what it always comes down to. So I went outside and I said, I need a moment. I had to take a breath, and I said, I need a sign. So I prayed. And have I told you this story?
Not the whole thing.
Oh, wonderful. Okay. So, and I said, I just got really quiet around a bunch of people, so I probably looked like a weirdo, but I'm okay with that. And I said, I need a sign, not to marry her. That was not in the question. It was right now, this way, with this ring at this time. And it was almost like I heard a voice. It was almost like the voice was like, all right, you fucking kid, you need another fucking sign? How many more fucking signs do you need here? And he said, okay, here's your sign. You're going to bump into somebody from your past. And then you'll know. And you'll know without a shadow of a doubt. So I heard that voice, and I've heard that voice many times before. And we go about our way, and that voice spoke up again, and it said, look up. And I look, and there's a man walking towards me, and he's wearing like one of those ugly Christmas sweaters, and it says, just wrap it. Oh, that sounds important. And then he said, just look up. He could look up again, like 5 minutes after that. And I look up, and there's a sign, and it's a real estate company called First Team. Bam. And that's how I've always seen us. It's like we're a first team together. And then 5 minutes later, look down at your phone. And she had just texted me. Jenny had just texted me. And she'd had a kind of like a rough Christmas at home. And her final thing was like, basically, they weren't really doing Christmas. So she said, I guess, oh, it just makes me so emotional. She goes, I guess no surprises for me this year. I'm like, well, you're about to be surprised like you can't imagine. So I'm already getting these other signs. And then the long story short is we went to the supermarket next, and we're leaving the supermarket, and we back out of the car, and I look to my right, and I'm in the back seat. My sister's driving, and I see a car I recognize. I'm like, I've seen that car. I know this car. And I look behind me, and sure enough, there's someone from my past walking right to the car. They couldn't see me because I'm in the car. I didn't want to see them, but I could see. I didn't want them to see me. I mean, but I saw them, and it was a really significant person because this is someone that wasn't really like a Jen fan, and that was really hard. So it's a very significant person of your past that you're seeing, and I'm like, I have got the sign loud and clear. I went right back there. I said, I'm in. Let's go. Let's do this. We're doing it. And that night I talked to her parents, asked for their blessing. And her dad said, you're not going to believe this, James. Oh, and this, I don't know why it makes me so emotional. It's just beautiful to me because it's this law of synchronicity. And he said, I proposed to her mother on December 27th. And it was like, wow. And then when she, she did say yes, by the way, when she came out, just in case anyone's wondering. She said, I've always wanted a Christmas proposal. I had no idea. She'd never told me this before. I had no idea. And I confirmed, like, you've never told me that, right? She's like, nope, never told you. It was the ring she wanted. It was a Christmas proposal. And the last thing she said was, I'd always wanted to share a wedding date that my parents had, but my sister took the wedding date. And she had no idea that her parents got engaged on the 27th.
So special. And
why I love sharing that story. I know it's like the women love it. I get it. But why that story was so impactful for me to have that experience and why I share that story is that in business, what I've been able to do is really something that you and I have talked about for over 12 years was cause miracles, leave a margin for magic. And that takes surrendering, giving up our grip on the logic and the reasons and the circumstances and have some sort of faith that something bigger and better is going to happen if you just take the next step forward. And we learn these things, but it's so common for us to only apply them in particular contexts. And I'm just grateful that I had enough experience in doing it in other areas that I could see it and course correct. Because even little Ewan went to Jenny and he's like, oh, Jenny, let me tell you, I was getting so annoying. I wouldn't shut up about it because he wasn't listening to me. I told him he needs to do it on the 27th. He wouldn't do it. And I was like, yeah, I was right. Because I kept making my reasons and excuses. And it's just an invitation to all of us to say, well, if the decision's already a yes, what else are you telling yourself to delay it, to procrastinate on it and not do the thing that you're here to do?
I love that story so much. That was great. Thank you. And one of the things I'm hearing in there is this piece around getting what we want sooner than we would have allowed it ourselves.
Yeah.
We have this idea that, yes, I get to have that, but later. And I think we do that a lot with our businesses, waiting for things to line up the perfect way. waiting until we're qualified enough, waiting until we do, right?
It has to be more complicated. It has to take more.
I have to have more experience.
Yeah, we have to make it a bigger runway.
To feel ready.
All of that.
Yeah. And I see myself doing it, you know, sometimes as well. It just came up in a mastermind I was just part of yesterday where, you know, a couple of my friends were just like really pointing out like, but how about now?
Right.
Like if you know that's your next thing, how about now? And I know you work with thousands of people inside Next Level, of course, inside BBD. And what do you recommend when someone is up against that? Like, okay, yes, I want it, but I'm not ready. Like, how can we give ourselves permission to accelerate our own timeline and just let ourselves have the joy now? Let ourselves like, why not now?
Well, the thing is like, I could argue with them and say, yeah, you probably aren't ready. Yeah. But the only way you're going to actually get ready is by doing it.
100%.
And so
Which is frustrating.
It's very frustrating.
But it's accurate.
It's very frustrating because everyone wants to look good, avoid criticism, and do it perfect, not make mistakes. And I'm like, congratulations, you're going to be the first person on the fucking internet to do that. Like, good luck with that. So I just have a very different approach because something that has been a secret weapon of mine, and it's so simple. It's embarrassingly simple. But if anyone else adopted this, I think it will transform how you show up in your business. I have no resistance around making mistakes. I put all of my emphasis on how I correct mistakes, not my my scorecard for how many I've made. I have no problem saying sorry. I have no problem saying I fucked up. I screwed up. I'll clean it up. I have no problem with that today. So I have no resistance to making the mistake. So ironically, the way the universe works is like the less resistance you have to making a mistake, you find yourself making less mistakes. Like it's just really weird how that works. So that's a little secret hack for everybody out there. But here's two things I want to say about the not ready thing. So I want you to write down, I am not ready. And then what you want to do is you want to elicit the criteria that has informed that statement about yourself. And what you will find, so fucking sneaky, is that the criteria for 98% of the people, if not all 100%, are things that you have put that are outside of your control. And what a ruse that your ego has played on you. There are things that you can't change, can't do anything about. It's the timing, the economy, the season, the size of this or the number of that or whatever, things that you can't even do anything about, which means that ain't going to change and you don't have the power to change it, which means you'll never be ready. And what we really find is that until I am ready becomes determined solely by an internal criteria, that we will continue to perpetuate the story of I'm not ready. Until we just say, I am willing to take a step, I am willing to put it out there, then we will continue to beat the drum of I'm not ready because my list isn't big enough. Well, what are you going to do to build your list if you're not ready to do anything else? You're not going to build your list. I can't launch yet because my list isn't big enough. Well, guess what builds your list? What? Your fucking launch. So you just put yourself in a death loop, right? So we gotta say like, I am ready because I've decided I want to help. I want to take a step forward. It has to be something internal for us. Now here's the next thing. And this is something that I've now been teaching and shouting from the rooftops, and our students are just seeing phenomenal results with this. And I love this. No one listening is going to like this. I basically just say, do 20 webinars, and until then, shut up, and then we'll talk. And it's unbelievable. So we have a student right now, and I love this type of student. You know, he had done the courses and he'd done all these things and nothing was working. And he was kind of at that like last straw. And that's my favorite person to work with because it's like, good. So you're still in the game. That means your success is inevitable. There's a lot of people that give up as soon as it gets hard. A lot of people that stop as soon as it doesn't work instantly. I'm like, are you kidding me? I did this for 5 years, not making a dime. And I kept going. And those are the people I want to work with. The people that are saying, I'm willing to have it fail 10 times so that it can succeed on the 11th. And so he took me up on this challenge. I said, do 20 webinars. And don't give me anything until then. Obviously, show me your results from your webinars, but don't expect anything until then. So he did that. He started doing weekly webinars. And, nothing, not a little bit, and a little bigger. And then he made a post at the beginning of the year. It was the coolest post I've ever seen. He basically, his first 30 days of 2025, he made the same amount in the first month as he had in the last 6 months. And this is all he had been doing. And I said, so what number webinar did you get to? 13. That's what it popped. It popped at 13. And most people, here's what most people are doing. I see two categories of the big group that's failing. One is they don't do anything. They'll consume, but they won't actually do anything. And when I mean do it, they're like, no, I'm doing so much. I'm like, no, you're not. You think you're doing. But here's how we know when we're doing. I call it it's a baseball metaphor, and I'm not a baseball fan. You don't have to be a sports fan to get this. An at-bat moment, which means you can't score. You can't even have the potentiality of scoring until you're up to the plate.
Right.
So you're not doing anything if you're just writing an ebook or filming videos. That's not doing anything. I mean, I understand it's doing, but none of that. You could have 100 courses.
Not a revenue generating activity.
Exactly.
Yeah. And
so you got to step up to the plate. And sadly, you don't step up to the plate until you're like going to ask someone on the internet for money. And I understand that's scary. So we avoid that. But then there's the other camp. And this is the camp that really separates the amateurs from the professionals. It sounds French to me. Is it a French word? Amateur?
Originally.
Yeah, there it is. See?
I mean, in English, we say amateur.
Oh, okay. Is it how you say, voulez-vous coucher? So I got to keep people on their toes. They're like, I was tuning out. And then he started speaking something naughty in French. So the second camp is that they do it once and it didn't work.
Yep.
And then they stop.
Yep.
Or instead of stop, they go in a completely different direction. I go, okay, I tried this, doesn't work. I'll try this, doesn't work. I'll try this, doesn't work.
Totally.
And it's like, you are looking at this so effing wrong. When I launched Business by Design, this is after the heels of several years of a $2 million a year business selling 97. People come to me all the freaking time. Okay, I won't cuss. All the effing time with like, you can't make a lot of money unless you're selling something high ticket. I had a $2 million a year business at a 60 to 65% profit margin, selling a $49 a month membership and a $97 online course. And what the heck are you talking about? I worked, when I was doing that business, that's when you guys knew me. I was living in Laguna Beach. I was surfing twice a day. I was probably working 2 to 4 hours, 3 days a week. It was a YouTube video a week, a webinar once or twice a month, and like getting on podcast interviews.
Yeah.
And that was amazing. People wanted to know how I was doing that. Enter in Business by Design.
Right.
Well, it was originally called James Wedmore Super Awesome, Amazing, Sexy Beta course. But when I went to go launch it the first time, it flippity flopped. It was a flop.
Really?
Yes, really. I had an email list of 100. Now, again, I'm going to say the number. Okay. And people are going to say, that was amazing. But no.
It's all
Everything's contextual.
relevant.
Everything's
Yes,
relative.
absolutely.
I had an email list of 170,000 people. I had a ton of people sign up for the launch. And I went and made the offer. And it did. It made like $220,000. That's great. That's great money. Mm-hmm. I was not angry, upset, blah, blah, blah. But it was like, it converted at like 1.5%, had an EPL of like $22. These are all like...
For James Wedmore, those are low numbers.
Well, the James Wedmore you know now, those are low numbers.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. This is the pivotal moment. This is what makes the amateur and the professional, sorry, I'm going to say it like an American.
Yeah.
In Austin.
We're in Texas.
We're in Texas, so we got to say it like that. And is that everybody else, not everybody, a lot of people would say, it just didn't work. Maybe I should try this other thing. Maybe I should launch this other product. Or maybe I should do another strat. Maybe I should go evergreen. Maybe I should, right? And I did something different. And I see all the people that I see that are tremendously successful have the same simple, it's so simple. And we all say that same thing, the successful ones. We say, this is a start and I can make it better. And I can make it better and I can make it better. So that's what I challenge this gentleman to and many others, do the same thing. So that 13 webinars was the same webinar, same offer. And you guys have no idea how much these tiny adjustments and tweaks must happen to your copy, to your messaging, to your sales page, to the offer, to what's included in the deliverables here in order to unlock the explosion of exponential growth that is waiting for you. But you have to do the 20 webinars or however to log the hours to have something that converts.
Because if you are constantly changing your offer, if you're constantly reinventing, if you're constantly changing your sales strategy, if you're constantly doing that, there's too many variables to know.
Yes.
And you, sir, came in last year. And when we were in Sedona, you were like, hey, want me to be your launch coach just for funsies? And I was like, sure.
I know. It's so weird. It was like, I just want to be your launch coach.
Like, can I?
And it was like, don't.
Can you imagine if I said no? Like, why would anybody say no to that?
I don't know. But I didn't ask for money. I'm like,
no,
I don't want money.
Just for like you, because you just wanted to.
I said, just voice text me like once a day, like whatever your daily thing is. And I got you.
You helped us take our EPL, earnings per lead, from $42 to $68.
And that's huge, by the way. That's a huge
I can't wait
growth.
to do it again with even more tweaking.
Yeah, because there were things that are like, oh, I can't do that
You
yet
know what?
next year.
When this episode is live, I will have. So I'm going to just
be in that future you.
Yeah. So, James, we just got our EPL up to $100. $100. And it was because those additional tweaks that we weren't able to implement last year because bandwidth. And I'm so excited to tell you about that right now. That just happened.
Congratulations.
So thanks,
like we need
James.
to do something to celebrate this big win. I want to say two things really quickly. First of all, there's keywords that I use. Words and language is extremely important to me. And there's two words that I want to create a distinction for. Difference between a change and an enhancement. Mm-hmm. And if it ain't broke, why fix it is the philosophy underneath this, right? A change is something that if you make the change to what you're doing, it could go up, but it could go down. And we want to limit changes. When something isn't working, you focus more on the changes. Like, okay, maybe the price needs to change. Maybe the promise needs to change, something like that. And then there's enhancements. And enhancements are changes that you make that only one of two things will happen. Either stay the same or go up. Go hog wild on your enhancements. What's an example of an enhancement? Well, we had more case studies. No one's going to sit there and say, Kate, I was going to join, but you just had way too many success stories. I figured I don't want to work with someone that's that good at what she does.
You know, one enhancement that we did last year that really moved the needle, and like I like the ones that are, you're just like, really? So
these
are my favorite. Just
my favorite
they're
too.
like the underdog ones, right? I mean, some of the ones you say are like, oh wow, that's really freaking brilliant, and then sometimes it's like, okay, so this one, this one was. I had just been sleeping on this for years. You know, back in the day, we always had a pop-up Facebook group around our launches. And then I was just like,
doing it.
It's passe. Like, who's on Facebook? I'm too important to talk to people on Facebook. I mean, like, all the bullshit.
You never would have said I'm too important to talk.
But like a feeling of like, I'm writing all the emails. I'm showing up for all the things. Like,
it's one more thing.
Not I'm too important, but
I'm
like.
I'm too busy. Like, it's a lot of work.
Just bandwidth.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what. We did that Facebook group. And not only did I have the time of my life in there, so that's reason enough to do it because of aliveness, but also it really moved the needle. Yes. And that was a great enhancement.
Yes.
And then,
perfect example.
because like no one's going to not join your program because you added a free Facebook group along with your launch.
Exactly. It was like, I was going to join, but the fact that you like talked to me and answered my questions.
And did one-on-one coaching in public
made me want to
for
leave
free.
and work with someone else that doesn't care about me.
So I love that distinction between change and enhancement. Okay.
I say my rule of thumb is if it never make more than 3, it's 1 to 2 changes. But enhancements go hog wild. However, don't overdo your bandwidth. Don't burn yourself out. Don't bite off more than you can chew. I want to talk about one more thing because you glossed over it really quickly, and that's EPL. You said what it is. It's earnings per lead. The calculation is actually in the term earnings, which is how much it earned. That's the top line sales revenue number
from a launch.
From that particular promotion launch. Yeah. I have a different definition of launch than most people because launch is a very loaded word. Here's something I want to say before I describe what EPL is that I think is really important. So what I do is I work primarily with someone who has any type of digital product. And the first key to understanding why your digital product isn't selling was one of the first lessons I had to learn, and I learned it the hard way. It will never sell itself. And if you're just putting it on your website on the Work With Me tab with an add to cart button and no one's buying, now you know why. It does not sell itself. We are not selling iPhone cases on Amazon. This is not Tupperware. This is something completely different.
Even that requires a party.
That's right.
Which is a launch.
That's
That is a
right.
promotion.
It is Tupperware parties. That's a thing. I used to bartend for those. Also pleasure
Amazing.
parties. That is a different story.
That is a
for
different
a
story.
different time.
Well,
So,
we both know somebody amazing who was like one of their top earners.
yes.
Makosi.
Yeah.
Yeah, she was
I know,
on the
it's so
podcast.
funny.
Anyway, regardless.
Regardless, so it'll never sell itself. So if I'm going to give you this formula, this is so stupid simple, but if you want to sell any type of digital product, I'm talking course, the membership, group coaching, even one-on-one coaching counts, virtual events and workshops and stuff like this, you got to do, it's 4 things in this order: gate, message, offer, deadline. So gate means I'm actually inviting people. We've literally tested and proven that if you're not inviting people, like they're just in your launch and they didn't even know, that it's going to affect the performance of it. Like if people
that
start,
makes sense.
yeah, like I have to say
Well,
yes.
that's consent.
It's Dr. Yes, exactly. It's Dr. Robert Cialdini's one of his influence principles of commitment and consistency.
Sure.
If I say yes to this one little thing, I'm more likely to show up. If I'm more
yes.
likely to show up, I'll show up to the next part, and maybe I'll sign up. But if I never said yes to anything, why am I going to say yes at the end?
Right. So don't just dump people in there.
Yeah. So I got to have a gate. I got to have the message. The message is everything. The offer is the thing that you sell, but it's not a product. That we could dive into any of these if you want, but this is all the stuff that I teach. And people have this all wrong. They're trying to sell their product, and they think their product is their offer, and it is not. A product is one ingredient in 7 ingredients of what makes an irresistible offer. Something I've learned today, and I really help my students with, is that you must, and you can't find me one person that's successful that doesn't have this. You must have an irresistible offer, and otherwise, you're going to have to rely on like really sleazy, old school, masculine sales tactics to sell something that people don't want. And then you get chargebacks and refunds, and your life and business just sucks.
And the lifetime of your business has an expiration date because lack of integrity.
Exactly. Like
expires
reputation
and starts to smell.
Spread
So
fast.
On the internet, they do.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we got a gate and invite. Those are combined. This is a message. This is a great message. We can talk about that if you want. And the offer. And it's actually the messaging that sells the offer.
For sure. I want to talk about messaging.
I want to talk about it too.
Okay.
And then a deadline. And a deadline. Now.
And a deadline
so that's
is
it. So
good.
if you're going, James, how do I sell more of myself? I go, first of all, you need something that does all 4 of those.
Yeah.
If it's not doing all 4 of those, then that's why it's not selling. So we got to do that. EPL is the one metric that we use to measure how well your launch did. So I had a client come to me just 2 days ago, and she goes, I'm a little hesitant to share my debrief because and I forget what the term she used. She had said something funny like Mickey Mouse numbers. And she did about $11,000 in her launch, which apparently is Mickey Mouse size numbers.
I think that's amazing.
But that's what she shared. And I did her EPL for her, which is earnings
Per lead.
per divided by the lead.
Right.
Her EPL was over $356.
I will take that, please.
I would take that. And
I will take that
so
to
I was like,
the bank.
I mean, I hope she knows I'm teasing, but I'm like, in what fucking world is $355 or whatever it was, Mickey Mouse numbers? And her response was like, so should I do this again? And I'm like, I wish I could look you in the eye as you say that to me, my face. Should I do this again? That's exactly what you should do. So if you can create an offer and then put it in a sales machine that has those 4 ingredients, the gate, the message, the offer, and a deadline, and you can get it past an EPL of 20%, which is $20. And that might take 5 webinars or 5 times to do it. That might take 10. Yeah. And you can do that. The game changes. And the game from that point is even simpler than you thought. So that's why we need to work through all of our money stories, because people come to me and they go, how do I scale? And I go, there's 2 ways to do it. There's 2 ways. And it's as simple as this. It's more people in and more people out. More people in is I'm doing more ads, more content, affiliates, driving more traffic, inviting more people, making it a bigger event. So instead of 100 people, I got 1,000. Instead of 1,000, I got 10,000. Instead of 10,000, we're going for 100,000 this year because we've had over 80,000 people come in just one of our launches. That's just insane. And then more people out means higher conversion rate. Yeah. And how do you increase? What is the number one thing, if you had to guess, that would increase that conversion rate or EPL in the launch?
Messaging.
Yeah.
What is messaging? I know what it is, but what is it for people who don't know what you're talking about?
Well, here's what I want people to get about it. I want you to imagine that in order to sell content, a course, a membership, coaching, that you have to use content to sell it. The content that you use to sell your content is what we call messaging. And it's
so all our content before the sale is messaging?
I would say yes, but I say all the messaging between the gate and the offer is the messaging we're going to talk about. Anything that comes before that is the messaging to sell.
To get the gate, into the
gate.
Right.
So I have messaging to
it's
sell
also
my
messaging.
webinar,
Yeah.
and I have messaging that sells my offer.
Correct. So
it has
you
an intention.
have coming up, I want to use real examples. So you have coming up Rise of the Digital CEO,
Yes.
which is the gate.
When you land on a landing page, that is the gate.
That is the gate. Okay.
Yeah, so that's an event.
So talk to us about what the messaging is and how did you come up with it for moving into Rise of the Digital CEO?
Oh man. Yeah. Months and months and months. So,
but then also make it sound easy for people.
no, I will. Like I just,
So that they'll want to do it too.
no, I totally will. I want to emphasize that this is why people are struggling is that they are not putting time here. They're not putting emphasis on there. They just think, I just have to show up and be
in my
authentic
vibes.
and high vibes and say it's awesome and they'll buy. And it's like, that's
Not
your
true.
message. And that's not a very good one.
Right.
So there's a lot to it. So I'm gonna go through some things and it's gonna get really cool really fast here. So first of all, I want people to understand that the function of great messaging is to create demand and desire for your stuff. And then I want to take a step back and say, people are desire-driven creatures. So the people that you're working with or want to work with already have a desire. Okay. The desire is attached to solving of the problem that you solve or getting the thing that you help them get. You are not convincing people to get those things. So like when we talk about the work that you do out in the world, you are not going to work with somebody that doesn't want money, that doesn't want to improve their relationship with money, that doesn't want to be happier and healthier with their relationship with money. If they say, I live off grid, I am outside of the fiat currency system that exists. I am not a part, I don't pay taxes. I live off the land in the middle of nowhere. That is not your ideal customer.
Definitely not.
They don't want what you got. And if you're trying to convince that person that's homesteading in the middle of nowhere, you are wasting your personal power trying to convince someone to do something they don't want to do. Right. So we had a customer come to me once. She goes, James, how do I convince more people to hula hoop? And I said,
That's amazing.
I said, wrong question, because I watch these hula hoopers down at the beach and they're flipping it up and around and doing all that. It's amazing to watch.
It is amazing.
And I'm so impressed. And I said, there is nothing on the planet, and I'm very good at linguistics and messaging and the power of effective language patterns and how to create a compelling argument for anything that I believe in. And I said, there is nothing you could do in the entire human language that would ever convince me to gyrate my hips with a hula hoop, a plastic circle around me.
Actually more of a front back motion, but
That's why I can't get it right.
yeah.
Okay, so
we
now
can
I'm in.
have a
I'm in.
hula
Never
hooping
mind. I want to
lesson.
do
You've
it.
been doing it wrong.
But yeah, I've been doing it all wrong. But you see what I'm saying? Is like you're doing it wrong. Do not convince anybody to want something they don't want. What a waste.
Total waste.
Instead, great messaging is used as a tool. And if you get this is everything, to link the desire they already have for the outcome to the very thing that you provide that gives that same outcome. And it's what I call it is the triple planetary alignment. It's like a triple planetary alignment. When these three planets come in a line, it is like the heavens will open up and your bank account will flood full of money. And I know it sounds silly and hyperbole, but we're having fun. So why not? And the triple alignment is transformation, which is the thing they already want, vehicle, we're going to talk about what that means, and your offer. And when those are one and the same, when the transformation I want is equivalent to the vehicle that you teach and talk about, which is equivalent to the offer, you've knocked it out of the park. And if you can get that one thing right, it will change everything. And this is so important because I see more people selling courses than ever before, which is really exciting. I mean, this is like people are just crushing it, but there's a lot of people that are good-hearted, amazing coaches with gifts, with talents, with messages to share, and they're not getting their people. They're not making the sales, and they're giving up and they're quitting. And it's like, because you're not doing any of what I'm talking about right here. So I'm going to explain this in the most simplest way. This is one little thing, and it changes the entire game. And it comes down to this concept that we call the domino belief. So when you wrote you've written 2 books now, and these are both with Hay House. And was it not true that either your editor or the publisher or somebody, or at least maybe you, said, as you write this book, you have to have like a core premise.
Yes.
Like there's got to be this, like, what's the theme of it? Like, what's the message?
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
And every great book, nonfiction book that I've ever read, the first chapter introduces this big idea, this core premise.
Yes.
That's what the domino belief is, because I started to notice all the best launches, it doesn't matter if it's a webinar, it doesn't matter if it's live or automated, but all the biggest sales campaigns all had a core premise.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what we call the domino belief. And unless you have a domino belief, what you're going to fall into is this trap that it did work for a while. It does not work anymore, which is just give, teach, and then they'll buy. And how's that fucking working for you? Because I know there's somebody listening that has poured their heart and soul into their free webinar, their free workshop. They gave it all. And people were like, this is amazing. Bye. And they left.
Totally.
Are you saying they didn't buy because you didn't give enough? It's not it. And it answers and I'm pun intended, the $1 million question. I've been asked this more times than I know how to count, which is how much content is the right amount of content that isn't too much content that they get overwhelmed and not buy, but not enough content they get pissed and leave to put into my free stuff so that people will buy. And I say, I love that you're asking this question, but it's the wrong question. It's the wrong question because it's not about quantity. It's quality. It's the type of content. And the moment that your messaging becomes, the nucleus of your messaging becomes the domino belief, it is the nucleus of your messaging, it changes the game. Because when you present the domino belief, the entire campaign, message, whatever, webinar, launch becomes about making the case and presenting all the evidence to prove as truth without a shadow of a doubt that this thing is true. And the reason we call it a domino belief is because if you can get people to say yes to this, I believe this, I agree with you, all the other dominoes, the objections, the reasons why not, fall with it. And when you start looking at it this way, it changes everything. Because one of the things that will also, I think the people listening, hopefully, that are in this industry and want to be in this industry, want to be change makers, and you want to be thought leaders. So here's a really sound piece of advice, a great philosophy for changing lives. And it's as simple as this: how you see anything will determine what's possible for you. So if we're still stuck in this idea that if I give you more things to do, if I tell you how to do, let me give you 74 steps for doing this and 68 steps for doing that, that's how you provide value, you have now overwhelmed people beyond belief. They now know all the things that they're not doing, that they're supposed to be doing, that they aren't doing because they aren't doing the other things that they haven't been doing, that 7 other people have been telling them they need to be doing. You're not helping anybody.
No.
In fact, we call that whipped cream on garbage. And what I like to do is take out the trash. And the domino belief takes out the trash. And it changes the way they look at things. And when they can change the way they see something, everything changes. And we take for granted how valuable that is for people. In fact, I find it to be 1,000% more valuable to change how people see something than to fill their head with more busyness.
100%.
Because everything about where I am today is because I started to see something differently.
Yes.
And you can do that with one 8-word sentence. It can be as simple as 5 words, 10 words. It's the domino belief. It will be one of the hardest things that most of your listeners will ever do, but it's also one of the most simple. It's so worth it.
And once you do it, you've got it.
It's literally, and I know it sounds like I'm drawing it out. I am. Of course I'm drawing it out. I'm literally doing what I teach right now, because how many people do you think listening are saying, I need to know what this domino belief is?
Yeah.
It's like, well, I'm just demonstrating it in real time. In fact, the most successful launches all have a great domino belief. That last sentence that I just said is a domino belief.
Right.
I just did a domino belief about domino beliefs. They call me meta more. They don't call me that at all. But it will catch one of these things.
It will catch on.
Kate will call me that. Please, will you call me?
Meta Wedmore?
Meta.
Is that what you just want me to call?
No.
James,
okay. There's
go ahead. So much in there.
I haven't started.
I know, but I'm also aware that the podcast studio wants to close.
Oh, shit. Okay.
I know.
Well, then I didn't know that. What do you want to do?
I think we need to end, which is like you just like left us on a cliffhanger, but I think it's okay.
Okay.
I mean, there's two more things, right? You had the domino belief, and then you were going to what and what?
The domino belief is made up of 3 ingredients.
Oh.
Vehicle, superlative, and transformation.
Okay.
The vehicle is the thing that you teach.
Yep.
Like regulating your nervous system would be an example of that.
Right. Regulating your nervous system around money.
Around money. And superlative is makes it a bold statement. Like it's the only way. It's the fastest way. It's the most effective way.
It is the only way to experience actual abundance in your life.
And actual abundance is the transformation. That's your domino belief.
Yeah.
And so now your training isn't about, let me give you a million things to do, think about, and apply. It's let me prove that without a shadow of a doubt. Because people need to know why before they get into the how.
Thank you for handling my domino belief.
Yeah. And I gave you a domino belief about domino beliefs, and you got that about that. And that when I just opened a door to an entire world of how we need to look at content differently.
Yes.
We need to look at offers and messaging completely differently if you want to not just survive, but actually thrive in today's marketplace.
So brilliant. James.
So they know. It's like,
I want to ask you 35 million more things. The good news is I know I'm going to get to learn them coming up in your amazing free experience.
The Rise of the Digital CEO.
Yes.
Yeah.
Tell me about it.
This is if you are or want to be any type of digital product creator, any type of course, membership, coaching, program, you name it. I'm gonna lay out the whole enchilada. This is 18 years of an obsession and passion of helping really the good-hearted ones out there, the ones that actually care, not the sleazy marketers that want to funnel hack and extract money from your wallets. But you're like, when's it going to be my turn? When do I get to actually stop being everyone's like best kept secret and actually build this thing and build a real business around it, something that works for me, that gives me life, gives me fulfillment, and obviously fills my bank account. That's what the Rise of the Digital CEO is. I've been doing this for years and years, and people say this free training alone, they get more value, more clarity, more insight, more distinctions, and more tools than all of the $1,000 and $2,000 online courses that they bought. We just bring it. It is intense. It is insane. It's super fun, and we're gonna blow your mind with how we're approaching business and marketing. And bottom line, it works. It's gonna help. It's gonna help you.
And I will say, like, anybody who's a beginner needs to absolutely do this. However, I have been in this industry for 15 years, and I actually personally got a lot out of that training. Yeah. So I want to say, no matter what stage you are, it would be a place for someone to show up. Yeah. Anybody who is already or wants to sell a digital product.
That's it. Yeah.
Amazing. It begins
May 29th. 2025.
Okay, amazing. So go to katenorthrup.com/rise, and you will get yourself that invitation. I'm so excited. I'll be following along because I actually really like learning from James. I've been doing it since 2012.
Thanks, Kate.
Thank you for being here. You're
sorry we couldn't go for 4 more hours here.
I know. I'm ready for more. I know you're ready for more, but the podcast man wants to go home.
Yeah. I don't blame him.
Thank you, James.
Yeah, thanks, Kate. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for
love you too.
Here.
Thank you.
If you are a course creator or have a digital product of any kind, a membership, a program, a group coaching thing, anything, an ebook, like anything that you sell that is digital, you need to listen to this. My friend James Wedmore has also been a mentor and teacher of mine for 13 years, and I can credit so much of the success we've had in the digital online space as an educator with the training and teaching that I have learned from James. Last year, he took me aside and was like, hey, can I just be your launch coach for fun? And he helped us to dramatically increase our launch results by like 75%. He has a free training coming up called Rise of the Digital CEO. I will personally be there, and it is a powerful 3-day training to take you through exactly how to take off with your digital product business. He gets so specific, so practical, so strategic, really into how to actually do it. This is not theory. This is not blowing smoke up your skirt. Like, this is an actual step-by-step workshop completely for free. I have learned so much from James. And when people say like, how should I take my business online? How can I sell more of my thing? I'm like, you gotta go learn from James. This is the one time a year he's doing it. And you can sign up over at katenorthrup.com/rise. katenorthrup.com/rise. I'll see you there.